We, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty.
Yeah.
Won't you just come my way?
Come in.
Baby. Won't you just take your time?
I want to say to all the families that have lost a dear loved one, my apologies, and I pray that God is with you, and I pray that you get past this. Hello everybody. I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about this whole situation with this whole Kyle Rittenhouse case. I want to start off by saying African American people, please do not be used. I'm going to say it one more time. African American people, please do not be used. The only connection to us is the location, meaning that this happened at a Black Lives Matter protest.
While protests against systemic racism were what first drew out crowds in Kenosha,
so this linking, I hate when people do this thing where they connect black people when it's beneficial to them. A lot of white people do this, where they connect us. Now, a lot of things have been happening as far as black people with the police. And a lot of people have been getting acquitted for crimes that they commit towards us. So I don't like when white people tend to use our grievances when it's beneficial to them. This whole Kyle Rittenhouse situation had absolutely nothing to do with African American people and Black Lives Matter. This is a self-defense issue.
Rittenhouse, his victims, and many of those closest to the shootings were white.
All of this is done pretty much in the name of Black Lives Matter, and there is definitely black people in the crowd, but there definitely was more white people.
But I'm going to come from this from a very right and wrong standpoint. Now, if somebody is coming towards you and trying to harm you, you are to defend yourself. And that's why you just don't get into fights with anybody and everybody. Because you don't know how somebody else is fighting. You don't know what they have or resources they have with them in order to protect themselves. So in situations where you get into confrontation with people, and you can't necessarily choose how they defend themselves. You can't say, well, you can't do this to me though. You can't do that to me though. No.
There's no rules, like you can't jump me though, you can't sneak me though.
When you get into it with somebody and you and somebody have a problem, they're going to defend themselves the best way that they feel they know how. Kyle Rittenhouse is a 17-year-old boy. And in this situation, it was killed or be killed. So he defended himself. And it's a self-defense issue.
Nathan Pete is filming from here. Hannah Giddings and her boyfriend Anthony Huber are nearby. Corey Washington is here. His footage captures both Gage Grosskreutz and Ryan Balch walking by. Then, Kyle Rittenhouse runs past his camera. Rittenhouse walks towards a parking lot where cars are being vandalized. He passes Joseph Rosenbaum, who is fighting with the armed men at the gas station. Here is where we first see Joseph Rosenbaum, the first person Kyle Rittenhouse fatally shoots that night. He joins the fight against the armed civilians.
Shoot me, nigga! Shoot me, nigga!
As other protesters try to stop him.
Hey, stop! Hey,
You're gonna get me all shot.
The person that attacked me first threatened to kill me twice. The first time was me and Ryan Balch were a little bit north, towards the north corner of 59th and Sheridan. Mr. Rosenbaum was walking with a steel chain and he had a blue mask around his face. He was just mad about something. Me and Mr. Balch were asking people if they needed medical help, and then he screamed, "If I catch any of you f***ers alone, I'm going to f***ing kill you." The second time was outside of the car source. He said, "I'm going to cut your fucking hearts out and kill," I'm not going to repeat the second word, but kill you and words.
Rosenbaum has just been released from the hospital after undergoing mental health treatment. His reasons for being here are unclear, and he doesn't appear to have attended a protest before. But his actions on this night will add to an already volatile situation. Rosenbaum now starts chasing Rittenhouse and throws a plastic bag that holds his belongings from the hospital.
I went to go run back south down Sheridan, and Mr. Rosenbaum was right there at the corner of the Duramax starting to chase me, and that's when I realized the only place I can run is straight towards the building of the car store slot number 3. Mr. Zeminski instructed Mr. Rosenbaum to get him and kill him. That's what I heard. As I'm running in that southwest direction, Mr. Rosenbaum throws, at the time, I know it's a bag now, but when he threw it at me with the light, it looked silver and it looked like the chain when he threw it at me. I turn around for about a second while continuing to run, and I point my gun at Mr. Rosenbaum.
Does that stop him from chasing you?
It does not. After he throws the bag and he continues to run, he's gaining speed on me.
Close behind them, a man holds up a handgun and fires it.
A gunshot is fired from behind me, directly behind me, and I take a few steps, and that's when I turn around. And as I'm turning around, Mr. Rosenbaum is, I would say, from me to where the judge is, coming at me with his arms out in front of him. I remember his hand on the barrel of my gun.
Then Rosenbaum lunges towards Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse fires 4 times.
When I was over there, there were about 100 people surrounding those cars, and there was no space for me to continue to run to.
As you see him lunging at you, what do you do?
I shoot him.
And how many times did you shoot?
I believe 4.
And after you shot him, what did you do?
The people around the cars that were originally there were not there anymore, and I ran around to see if I could help Mr. Rosenbaum.
And when you got to Mr. Rosenbaum, what was happening?
Mr. McGinnis was, he took off his helmet and slammed it on the ground and took off his shirt.
Rosenbaum, who's been hit, falls to the ground. There are 3 more shots from someone else in the parking lot. Rittenhouse calls a friend, while others are helping Rosenbaum, who's on the ground. Then he flees the scene.
I pull out my phone and I call Dominic Black. I told him I just shot somebody. I had to shoot him.
And as soon as they were all saying he shot somebody, Anthony was gone. And I tried to grab onto him, and nobody was gonna stop him, you know?
What I remember is running past Anthony Huber, and as I'm running past Mr. Huber, he's holding his skateboard like a baseball bat, and he swings it down, and I block it with my arm, trying to prevent it from hitting me, but it still hits me in the neck. And as I block it, it goes flying somewhere off in the distance. I keep running down Sheridan Road towards the police line. I get lightheaded, I almost pass out, and I stumble and hit the ground.
Before you hit the ground, how many times were you struck?
I believe twice.
Okay. Do you remember anything about the other one?
I remember the first one being a rock. I don't remember who did it, but I remember the bumpiness of a concrete rock hitting me in the back of the head. As I'm on the ground, there are people around me. I don't recall how many, but I remember moving my rifle in their direction, and they back off besides one person. The last person jumps at me he was wearing boots, I believe, and as he's running at me and jumping, as his boot is making contact with my face, I fired 2 shots at him. He would have stomped my face in if I didn't fire. Mr. Huber, immediately after I'm kicked in the face, runs up as I'm sitting up to try to get up and get to the police. I'm on my back. Mr. Huber runs up. As I'm getting up, he strikes me in the neck with his skateboard a second time. He grabs my gun, and I can feel it pulling away from me, and I can feel the strap starting to come off my body. I fire 1 shot.
And then I hear a bunch more gunshots down the road, and I was like, I just had a feeling it was him.
Rittenhouse trips and falls. Anthony Huber hits Rittenhouse with a skateboard and attempts to disarm him. Rittenhouse shoots him in the chest. Here is Gage Grosskreutz with his gun drawn. He also gets shot and calls out for help.
I lower my weapon, and I see Mr. Grosskreutz with his hands up. As I'm lowering my weapon, I look down, and then Mr. Grosskreutz, he lunges at me with his pistol pointed directly at my head. And his pistol is pointed at me, and that's when I shoot him.
How many times did you shoot him?
Once.
I remember when the George Floyd incident first happened. A lot of celebrities came to Minnesota to show their support. In fact, it was more celebrities being shown on TV than the people that actually experienced the injustice firsthand. So him going across state lines is no surprise. I want to say that he had a reason to be in Kenosha. He was not just across state lines. He had a reason. Yeah, he was from Illinois, but he had a reason to be in Kenosha.
What's your father's name?
Michael Rittenhouse.
Back on August 25th of 2020, where did he reside?
He lived in Kenosha, in the city of Kenosha, in the apartments behind the Pick and Save on 50th. On 50.
Do you have any other family that's from Kenosha?
Yes.
What?
My grandmother, my aunt, my uncle, and cousins all live in the city of Kenosha.
On August 25th of 2020, where were you employed?
I was furloughed at the YMCA in Lindenhurst, Illinois because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and I was working at the Recplex in Pleasant Prairie.
Okay. Recplex here in Kenosha County?
Yes.
Now, on the night of the 24th, did you come to downtown Kenosha?
Not downtown, but I came to Kenosha for work.
Okay.
And when it comes down to this thing with Trump.
By the way, I have to say, Kyle, I got to know him a little bit. He called. He wanted to know if he could come over and say hello because he was a fan, unlike the other guy. He came over with his mother. Really a nice young man, and what he went through, that was prosecutorial misconduct. He should not have had to suffer through a trial for that. He was going to be dead. If he didn't pull that trigger, that guy that put the gun to his head, in 1/4 of a second, he was going to pull the trigger. Kyle would have been dead.
You know, Trump is just a clout chaser, y'all. Trump just be trying to cause fake outrage. And honestly, every time somebody from the black community, we see Trump, we go the other way because of the mean and hurtful and hateful things that he said in the past. So people tend to put Trump in front of things, and I'm starting to watch that. Put Trump in front of things to gain outrage with us, with the African American community, to gain some sort of reaction with us. But black people do not sit around and let other individuals try to make you feel as though this had anything to do with the black community. I understand it's a very sad situation, and I understand you feel as though nobody's life should be lost. However, this has nothing to do with black people at all. This has more so everything to do with self-defense. This is an issue where somebody is trying to hurt somebody else and they defended themselves. I also want to say a lot of black people are saying, well, if that was a black person, they would have gotten this would have happened to them, that would have happened to them. And I want to say, I feel you. I get it. As a black woman, I get it that the cards are not right towards us. However, it doesn't start by making this young gentleman pay the price for every black person that didn't get the same opportunity as a white person. It should have been equal a long time ago. Everybody's like, well, if that was us, that wouldn't have happened. It damn sure would not have happened. However, finding him guilty does not make us equal to white males or females. That fight is bigger than Kyle. That fight is humongous. That fight should have been handled in our parents' time, way before us. Finding him guilty does not make all of those young black men that experience injustice be freed.